Welcome back to the Authenticity Calling podcast. I am your host, Relitza Spasova, and today is a super special podcast with one of the co-authors of Beyond Coincidence. And I'd like to say a new friend, Marianne Knox. Welcome, Marianne.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's so great to connect with you here. So today we're just really connecting to do the fireside chat for the book that we both co-authored. It's called Beyond Coincidence, and I'm just really curious how Beyond Coincidence came into your life because it's a book about synchronicity, but I find that when I talk to the authors and when I have these fireside chats, a lot of people came into becoming a co-author of Beyond Coincidence through a synchronistic experience. So I'd love to know how it came up in your life and how that calling happened.
Yeah, it came up in my life at a time when I was just beginning to get into the world of networking. And she came on, I think, once into a networking call based out of Australia, and it just resonated with me. It's always been something that I've been told, you should write a book. Are you writing a book? When are you writing a book? And there just felt like this connection, and even seeing her presence on the networking call just felt very clear and crystal. And her name is Crystal.
Her name is Crystal. Yeah.
It just felt this clarity and this spaciousness that it just stood out on the networking call. So I think that was my reason for actually going on that networking call, because that's sort of the one out of the whole group, other than a couple others, that sort of aligned. So there was the synchronicity.
Absolutely. I love that. And so just for the audience that's not aligned to that flow state quite yet, for people who are listening and they're like, what's all this thing about synchronicity? Do you mind if we just take a step back to how did you decide to even take part in the networking event?
I was through relaunching my business in a new realm. I was constantly told, you need to network, you need to network.
That's right.
And getting into that networking space and meeting people for the since October, and that's evolved and grown. But it was, basically at the beginning, it was a dumping ground of a
Mm,
bunch of people. And she stood out,
yeah.
her presence of that stood out in when I was in the midst of just bombarding of a bunch of different people. So there's the synchronicity, and it was just something that stood out above and beyond the number of people that I was meeting at that time.
That's amazing. So individually, I think you're absolutely right. When people are in alignment and when they're in integrity with their purpose and their calling and what they're offering to the world in a way that is truly serving, I'm going to say we because I
Mhm.
really feel that I'm also very much committed to that path. And to go out of your way and take part in so many networking events and just be in this space, it really takes a lot of capacity. So I want to honor that, I think it starts off feeling kind of like bumpy and kind of chaotic and catastrophic. And, we work our way, but I think it is really a beautiful space to look forward to where you get to just show up authentically. You get to, receive an email in your inbox inviting you to an event just after one of your meetings is canceled. And it's just this, oh, great, let's do it. And you hop in and you trust the
Mhm.
path and you trust the process. And
Mhm.
this is, I think, when we resonate at that level of trust, following our calling, following the truth, following all of the things without judgment. Why did that person cancel? Don't they respect my time? Like all the processes that we've
Mhm.
learned growing up from, I think, our parents mostly in society, instead of having all of those hanging on to, rather just releasing and trusting, oh, this happened for me, and you move on with your day. And to me, I think that's how I've recognized that commitment to flow. So the story that you shared just really took me back into the process of creating flow and what
Mhm.
that looks like and how we actually get in our way from being in flow. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that experience. And So when you met Crystal and you decided to learn more about the book, was there something about the title, or was there something about things that are happening in your world at the time that you thought, oh, this is absolutely for me? Or was it just like this full body yes that you couldn't deny?
You know, it was interesting as I never, until I got part of the book, thought about the events of my life being in the term synchronicities. I never actually probably put a name on it. So, it brought more clarity into that word, into that realm of thinking. It's just something, innately I just followed because of my drive of curiosity.
Okay.
So when he looked at it, I'm like, oh yeah, those could be termed synchronicities.
Yeah.
And so it's given me a whole perspective, and having my first interview with Crystal and sharing the story and really realizing, my turning points of shifting and growth where because of synchronicities I realize are subtleties. And if I didn't have curiosity, I would have just bypassed so many of those synchronicities.
I love that. So is there an example that you can think of where you did actually bypass it and looking back, you were like, oh, that was a missed opportunity?
Actually, no, I'd have to really think about
Or
that.
maybe the opposite, maybe something where you did notice.
Yeah, I think when you bypass it, the more you become aware, the more you feel out of alignment.
Yes.
The more you understand that whole path, you realize synchronicities, in the book, sure, we have pivotal synchronicities, but there's so many beautiful synchronicities, I think, in our
Yeah.
today life that aligns us on how to be present. We could dive into the word synchronicities. What is the true definition? They're not necessarily turning points. It's being synchronized with life, synchronizing
Mm.
with our path, right? So
Mm.
I think it's a very organic, but the book looks at it as turning points.
So you did say something really important, though. You said presence. And I think, especially in our world where we are genuinely, we're overscheduled, we're overcommitted,
Yeah.
we are over bombarded, whether it's through our phones danging at us all the time, emails coming up and interrupting our meetings. We maybe don't see it as interruptions, but they really truly are interruptions to our focus and our ability to stay in the present moment. So I'm curious, have you noticed a pattern where through being more present, you've experienced maybe more synchronicities, or what has that evolution looked like for you?
I guess I don't necessarily term it in, seeing synchronicities. I think it's, direction, or, they are synchronicities. Like I said, it's more of an awareness. I look at what is the true meaning of a synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
And there's beautiful synchronicities. It brings us into alignment. It constantly, we are meant to be evolving human beings. And I think
Yeah.
the synchronicities are there as our guides, our little stepping stones, like come this way, look over here, and, that's why my signature sign is sparking your curiosity, because I think, that has to go hand in hand. When a synchronicity comes, are you curious,
I
to have
love
that?
that.
So I think there's a lot of components that play into it, where some people might not, can't see synchronicities or are scared of synchronicities, right? So I think the more we look at it as on an organic flow of life,
Yeah.
it just brings it down to that more gentle, organic flow, right? So
Yeah.
that's sort of, I look at it, but I love that this book gave me like a name, a name to say, what does that mean? But on a core level, what is it really? It's
Yes.
just about being open to your own evolution and
Yes.
where that takes you. And that's without limitations.
Okay, let's go to limitless. Let's talk about without limitations.
Well, that's the part of the book. So that's my mojo. Yeah, like, limitations are they're not they're not our design.
Okay.
Limitations are there because of things we need to work through. They have a purpose. They
Mhm.
keep us safe when we don't know what we're not safe about.
Okay.
So it serves a purpose. Nothing is negative or wrong. But I
Mm.
think the more we understand what is a true limitation and why is it there, and is it
Mm.
still serving us? Because we are not limited beings. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we are always even aging. Like we don't stay the same age. There's nothing stagnant within our being, in our presence. So I think limitations is not an alignment at all with
Okay.
us, but because of certain things that we're working through, it does, serve a purpose to keep
Okay.
us safe in the reality that we're in that moment.
To keep us safe. Okay. So yeah, so I mean, we do talk about this in sort of the coaching world. The way that I bring it back to the ego basically is to keep us safe. So do you feel that,
Mhm.
and this is a constant space where I'm still kind of digging into and trying to better understand. How do you feel that you differentiate or you discern between life showing you that it's not for you versus a limitation or self-limiting belief? Or do you know what I mean? Because I think a lot of times we face these moments where we choose not to do something, and
Mhm.
a lot of times it is because of our limiting beliefs. It is because of our limitations, as you say. How do you
Mhm.
differentiate between that and that sort of knowing that, oh, this got in my way because it's just not the right path versus the resistance of growth?
I think when but I think you have to get to a point on your own journey where the difference,
Mm,
that has that awareness piece. Like I say, awareness is the biggest step you'll ever make in life because so I think and it's just a sense when you have that awareness of that knowing, because then you know why that limitation is there. Like personally coming at it from a human development specialist, I understand at a core level the body's number one priority is to keep us safe in the reality we're living in present time. And
mhm.
we're doing 300% of our best in that moment. So I think the more we can educate ourselves and the more we are aware, we understand both. And even if it's not a path for us, we have been curious about it and we understand why that path was not for us. We just didn't shut it down cold turkey
That's
or come up with excuses, but we have, you know, uh, a higher level of awareness as to why, because we won't feel it resonates with us, not based out of fear or
hmm
survival,
hmm
but it's just not, who we are.
Yes, it doesn't quite feel right anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And there's a strength in that. There's a strength, and in that comes boundaries. We understand there is no separation of anything, right? It just
That's right.
all flows together.
That's right. And that's why I think so many coaching methodologies, so many coaches work in the same sort of path and pattern with people through their blocks and through their own personal development, because it takes a level, like you said, of awareness first and foremost to be able to identify
Mhm,
what is actually, again, there's purpose, there's alignment, there's so many
mhm.
words that we use
Yeah.
all the time. And then once we know what's yes and what's no, or what's for us and what's that 10 out of 10 alignment, and what's that like maybe 9 or 8 that we can just
Mhm.
leave and let go. So I'm really curious if you don't mind sharing. I personally don't love the term boundaries because I really don't think, it visually, I'm a very visual
Mhm.
person.
Oh,
Visually, I
yeah,
think of like walls, right? And
yeah.
so I've had this conversation with a few different people, but I think bringing it back to alignment, what you focus on grows. And so
Yeah.
I think of, instead of talking about what we don't want, let's talk about what we do want. How would you
Mhm,
define alignment, and how do you physically, viscerally feel it so that you know to trust it? Or is it a mental thing? Because we have different types of learners and people that are, they're either,
mhm,
either in our heart if we've developed past the mind, or we're in our mind and we're very heady. And there's just different ways that
mhm,
people will feel alignment. So I'm curious, what
mhm.
is your definition of alignment, to just to help people figure out and discern between is this something that I'm just excited and curious about out of the space of just my wild spirit, or
Mhm.
is this truly aligned? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
How would you
Yeah,
discern, yeah, or differentiate
yeah.
that?
No, thank you. And also thank you for bringing up the term boundaries because it has a crazy spin on it in so many ways because, you know, it's just an open venue of many different things because, you know, again, it's just having that own, like you said, my alignment is I feel peace
Mm,
no matter what, you know, and it's a knowing, but you have to have a lot of self-worth that you are worthy, you know, that's okay.
right.
And that's sometimes where, you know, we stand in a different presence of that knowing, and then that can people, because boundaries are just thrown out there in a wide range, that they look at it as a boundary or we're doing something against them, or, you know, there's that whole division I have found. Once we are aligned with ourselves, we just have this knowing and have this peace.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're not crossing into other people, they're not crossing over into us.
Mm,
And, you know, a boundary is a word, but it also has a lot of, um, because people are trying to understand it. So I look at a society, they're very curious about what that means to
that's
them.
right. That's
And
right.
I think it's, you know, it's that evolution of, you know, connection, but still being authentic. And that's where that is a little bit of a vague gray area right now.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting because as we all start to, we all, the collective, there is a collective coming into alignment. I think as we start to resonate to that level of our authenticity, our alignment, and our way of showing up in the world, which is so unique to just us. We cannot be anyone else. We pretend
Mhm.
to be what we call comfortable in our world,
Mhm.
which is actually the most uncomfortable thing you can be, is trying to be someone
Mhm.
else or that you're not. But I think there's this interesting phenomenon when people start to recognize, oh, this is a little bit more aligned. So suddenly I'm living my authentic path. And
Mhm.
through not the most harmonious communications, they start to kind of blast through their, whether it's their network, their friends, their family members, it's like this all of a sudden for the first time you're breathing and you just want to gasp and fight for all of the air that you could possibly get. And it comes off a little bit chaotic and it's not
Mhm.
communicated so lovingly and kind.
I like to call it like a what is it called? An elephant in a china shop or
That's
something
right.
like that, right? I sort of warn my you know, my clients that will be, especially if their voice has been stifled, right? That there is that whole, you know, that awareness piece, right?
Yeah.
I'm now aware.
Yes.
And then what am I grounding myself in going forward? You know,
Yeah.
we always want to swing the pendulum way to one side and not to another, and know, well, what is balance? You
That's
know,
right.
where is that balance in our growth?
Yeah.
You know, we're not meant to struggle because we can struggle on the other side just as well, right?
That's right.
Especially like you said, when the people around us might not be in that space.
Right. Well, I mean, they only know what they know. They've only seen
Yeah.
us show up
So
how
how
we
do we
until
come
now.
in
So it is
gently?
quite drastic. Yeah, it's quite drastic when we decide to change. And I think it's really interesting because there's this, I think the part that makes it easier that I've come to recognize is taking that personal responsibility and recognizing that,
Mhm.
oh, it's not that they have been using me, it's that I have been showing up as a people pleaser, creating this relationship where I will show up for anything and human nature will take advantage. It's not that we're trying to use people in a way. I don't think people's intentions are necessarily
Yeah.
poor. I don't think that they mean to use. However, I think as a society, and especially coming out of this really deep survival mode, when someone offers us something, I mean, I guess there's two dynamics. There's the dynamic of I don't need you, I don't want you, and I can do it on my own, which is this very like broad burning feminist movement that we're coming out of. thankfully, finally, because it's very toxic and it's exhausting and it leads to burnout and it causes self-rejection and, all the things.
Mhm.
But then there's this other side of, people who've never really had much that are given something, they'll take it all. It's like they want to swallow the whole ocean at the same time.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of times we tend to go to blame, but I think if we can find some compassion and understanding that this person is going through a personal evolution where they're actually maybe for the first time recognizing what their gifts are and their alignment, if we can just be patient with them through that process, I think it becomes so much easier for everyone. So I guess it's the personal responsibility on the side of the person that's evolving. And I think then they will show up less explosively. This is coming from me because
Mhm.
I used to have, like, my mom used to tell me, like, you have anger management issues. And I didn't recognize, what I
Mhm.
went through as a teenager until now that I'm a coach. I recognize that that was me exploding to the idea that, like, I cannot be micromanaged. I'm tired of it. And I wanted to have a boundary around it, but I was young. What did I know about communicating my
Mhm.
boundaries, and especially with my parents when I was still
Yeah.
16 or 15 or 13 years old? So it's just, I see this dynamic playing out as people are evolving into their alignment. It doesn't necessarily have to be so drastic. And, instead of being an elephant, you can turn into a tiny little fairy in the china shop. Just flutter around
Yeah.
instead of, crashing into everything. But yeah, I don't, that came through as kind of as you were sharing. So, um,
Mhm. That's
yeah.
my motto is making change with ease and grace and a smile on your face.
Oh, I
So I've
love
always had
that.
that model that I've used and shared with people. Because in recognizing that, there is a pendulum. And I think the more we see, you know, there is no right or wrong, there's clarity, that I think, the more you can inform people on those little things are huge things.
Yes.
People think huge things are big things. No, the little things are the huge things. And recognizing, we need to honor all of that in our lives to realize those are where the value is. So
That's right. That's right. I love that. Can you share your motto one more time? I just want to hear it very clearly.
yeah, making change with ease and grace and a smile on your face.
I love that. So that makes perfect sense as to why that whole story came up for me again on this podcast. And I'm really honing that channel and that authenticity and just that trust of what comes up and just expressing it. And so that is the perfect confirmation, as always, that we're in flow and that we're connected and
Mhm.
that we have this rapport. And so yeah, it's just so beautiful when we get to just be truly authentically ourselves, isn't it?
Mhm. It's fun, it's joyful, you don't take things so seriously because they're in flow, therefore your understanding, therefore your curiosity. There's no stagnation
That's
when you're
right.
authentic. There is just and the more people that can join this space, right? The more the collective grows. That's why I'm, hoping in my community that I formed is to bring out that collective, that awareness that, we're not in this singularly. You
Yes.
know, we have to be and stand as a community, as a collaborative,
That's right.
and stop running from the scarcity realm and
Yes.
getting to that more mind
Absolutely.
space for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're a tapestry. The way that I see
Mhm.
Autumn Sky, she's an artist from British Columbia. She has this beautiful painting that has this tapestry of all the people around it holding it, and it is truly interwoven like a blanket. And if one
Mhm.
person leaves and pulls a string, it's not the same. It doesn't have the same integrity. It doesn't have the same strength, the same tensile strength, the same capacity. So yeah, it's just life is so beautiful.
It
And
is, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm. It is interesting. Like once somebody said to me, because of how I work, they said, you're the only person that I know, that works in this realm, but always brings humanity into everything.
mm,
So even on a personal one-to-one session, it's always, I said, because there is no separation
yeah,
and everything webs out farther than we can imagine.
yeah.
And I think the more we need to realize that we are a collective, a very unique collective, and we are a river with ripples. So, I just try and bring in that awareness to, no matter what I'm teaching, who I'm talking to,
Yeah.
that there is no separation.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And just as you were sharing that, this visual came to my mind of the ocean waves and how, they have a certain frequency and wavelength
Mhm.
and amplitude. But I think if we're constantly with people that are the same, it actually causes more waves. But if we come into harmony with people that are the opposite, it actually causes stillness. So I thought
Mhm.
that was interesting because we are unique and we are different.
Mhm.
We're meant to collaborate with people that are
Mhm.
different than us. We're not looking for the yes man because then it creates
No,
yeah, a tsunami.
that's one of the things I ask people who are, no matter where they are on their journey. I says, I want you to pause it for a moment, and I want you to look at the people in your inner circle.
Hmm.
Are they all aligned with you? Are they all the same thinkers as you?
Hmm.
That shows, we need to look at that. If
Hmm.
there are people with different beliefs and different views and different,
Yeah,
I think looking at who is in our inner circle, are there people that, aren't necessarily as aligned with us, but are we receiving? Because we can receive from everybody,
that's
from that state of curiosity.
that's right.
People come and flow in our lives, but if our inner circle, people say, I need my tribe, I need my people,
Yeah.
are they going to push you to grow? Like I always say, my teachers usually never say what I want to hear. They
Yeah,
say what I need to hear,
that's right.
and I think when we're doing this, we can get into that tribe of same minded, same levels, same woundedness that I think we also have to be very mindful of. And
Mm,
that's where, if we come from a place of collectiveness, that everybody holds value, no
mm.
matter. And I think that's where, that's a huge part of our growth as well.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that idea that we do. I mean, we gravitate to people that are like us, but also that comes back to the concept of life being a mirror, right? If everybody
Mm-hmm.
around you, they're going to mirror the same limitations that you have. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to evolve, you have to come into a space where you have mentors, you have people, as you said, that are going to call you out or call you in into your growth, into
Mm-hmm.
your capacity, into your potential, reflect your greatness.
Fun
And it's
collective.
uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable sometimes, but that's the point, knowing that they're coming from such a good place. Then we can
Mm-hmm.
receive it, right? So I love that because
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what I call my spirit tribe. It's those people that will call me out of the blue and
Mm-hmm.
ask me how my day is going, and I'll say something and they'll call me in truly to reflect on, but is this serving you, or you're doing that pattern again that you said you're not going to do. You know what I mean? Like that to me is
Mm-hmm.
true spirit tribe. Those people that truly see through the human shell of
Mm-hmm.
who we are and just see your spirit and your soul and your full capacity. And they resonate at that frequency of your truth. So they know when to call. They will
Mm-hmm.
challenge you when it's time to change your
Mm-hmm.
mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is so important. But it does come with a level of accepting challenge and, as you said, curiosity and
Mm-hmm.
being open and welcoming to receive feedback, which goes back to that self-worth, knowing that regardless of what somebody else says to you or regardless of what you're going through, you are unconditionally worthy. And I think that's where we're starting with a lot of people and also with myself. I mean, I work on self-worth all the time. I think it's an evolution through my lifetime. I think
Mm-hmm.
through a lot of our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Um, but I think you're right. We need to have this level of resiliency to receiving feedback to call us forward. And I think we can truly benefit if we come from a place of wanting that, asking for
Mm-hmm. Oh,
feedback. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the workplace culture and the workplaces that are shifting. My own workplace, I work for Doctors of BC, and we are so committed to inclusivity. And that, I think, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
companies, as they move towards diversity, inclusion, and we actually, yes, it's a human rights issue, and it's a human rights piece of alignment and honor and integrity, but it's also from an esoteric standpoint, it's also an energetic balance that we don't have a choice anymore to be ignorant. We must face each other's differences and grow and learn. And so it's just such a, I personally think it's such a beautiful time on the planet right now as people are being forced to question all of their beliefs, as people are being kind of called into this space of, breaking down their identities that they've committed to for so long to question what else is possible. And in this space of vulnerability, I mean, you and I are almost perfect strangers. We met through the book and we're having this beautiful synchronistic collaboration and conversation. And we're really doing the same thing in our respective spaces to support humanity in evolving in this way. And I honor you so much for the work that you're doing, for your commitment to really being that. I see and feel you as a spirit mama as well.
Oh,
As
thank
that
you.
say,
Thank you.
yeah.
Glad we got this time. It's, I know it's a podcast, but it's like our own personal conversation to get to know each other, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And that's how the podcast started, truly. I had so many of these inspiring, amazing, juicy conversations with people. And I would always think to myself, man, we talked about so many good things. I wish this was recorded. So that's truly how the podcast was born in
Beautiful.
2020. Yeah. When I finally slowed down and I started to, as you are doing, networking with people who resonate with me, this awareness came to me like people need to hear these conversations. We need to be part of more of these just
Mhm.
heart wide open, you know, get down on your knees and talk about like your sorrows and your woos and also your, your passions and your purpose. And so yeah, I just thank you so much for being on the podcast. I wanted to ask, you mentioned that you have a group. Is that an open Facebook group, like open invitation, or is that selected people that get invited?
Yeah, I have two groups. I have one called the Soology Community. It's a free group.
Okay.
And it's through Circle, not Facebook. So I sort of ventured away from Facebook because
Nice.
there's no ads or everything, and it's my private group. And I
Wonderful.
say spirituality is deep, soology is deeper,
Ah,
because there's this new age of sort of fluff spirituality,
yes.
that I wanted to be mindful of and respectful of. But like I say, when people come to me, you come to change. You just don't come to feel good. So I wanted to honor um, the differences and be respectful. The zoology community, I see private clients, but I'm really excited about it because I think as a collaborative, there's so much fun stuff I'm doing in it. It's on my website. It's free. And then I have a high vibe community that is a slightly tiny paid community. Just so the differences, because you get people that are at more the wounded beginning stages. And
Mhm.
I have found when I brought them both together only, the
Mhm.
high vibe people were always supporting and they weren't getting the energy they needed.
That's
So I've
right.
sort of done a separation just to honor both areas. But yeah, the zoology community is what I'm just funneling tons of fun things through. I started this week with our own playlist so people can say what music resonates with them. We have our own playlist. I have a weekly soul spelunking where we do journaling. So it's just a very fun, and I just want it to grow and every member get to know each other and support each other. And, I'm just sort of overseeing it, offering some fun things. So this is my baby. I want to launch in a playful
Oh,
fun. So
that's so beautiful. That sounds so juicy and such a beautiful space of evolution. And it honestly sounds like you're doing this out of your passion. Like this is just something you love. When you say
yeah,
it's my baby, it's just
it's
that
because
is such a
it's
beautiful
fun.
space.
We
Yeah.
need to bring, happiness and fun. That's our alignment. And, people will say to me, they'll come to me one to one, and they think it has to be heavy, it has to be, and they said you do things so light and so positive, it sort of takes them back a little bit
Mhm.
because they're not used to it. And I said, but that's your alignment. You live heavy. You live like I'm not putting you in that space. So no matter what I do, I have a very different in the zoology community. I want people to, you know, like one little thing can web out vastly. And
That's
that's where I'm hoping the zoology community will grow and we'll just have lots of fun. And the more people commit, that want to get in, it's just a matter of people getting in to do it. We're used to we have a smorgasbord of things right now. of great things, and it's how to get people to, it's almost like we have to decide which serves us where we are presently. So
That's right. Yeah, we need to really focus. Yeah, but it does. It helps to get to know people. It helps to, and hopefully, if you want to use this podcast even on your Facebook group to chat, like to express more of who you are and how you do things, and just really invite people into your space. Because I think to me, it's very palpable that people sometimes resonate and others don't. And when they do, they want to know more naturally about what you do. So, do you mind
mhm,
sharing actually your website? What is your website? So if somebody here hears about
my
it.
website, yeah, my website is marianneknox.com. And you'll see under it the Soology community. I offer 2 free 30-minute consultations to get to know me, ask me any questions on anything.
Yeah,
I'm more of a person, I don't have a script. It's like, what do you want to ask me?
that's right.
And then that's where we take it from.
Yeah.
So, I'm open to any questions. There's nothing that anyone has to say, oh, I wonder if. It's like, just ask. That's my trademark is curiosity. So I also have to mean that I want curiosity to come to me as well.
That's right. Love that. Thank you so much, Marianne. I'm just going to spell it out for people who are listening. It's Marianne, Knox, Knox.com.
.com. Yeah.
Perfect. So that's where you can find Marianne. And Marianne, if you have a giveaway, a juicy, whether it's mindset, whether it's like 5 steps or whatever that might be, something generous for our audience, what would that be in your space? I know curiosity is something that you've continued to allude to and you invite us into.
Yeah. Yeah. If I had to say anything, I would say happiness is your birthright.
Mm,
And stress and struggle is not in alignment. And that's why it feels yucky, is you're not in alignment. And I will show you thousands of different ways why it is your birthright. Because that's something that has resonated with me from, I think, preconception because of how I was as a child.
yeah,
And I just want to bring people into that
yeah,
space of, I know, we can't always have happiness when something hits us,
yeah.
but it will rock us to our core a lot less when we truly know what our foundation is. And that is living a life of inner peace and happiness.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. That spoke so deeply to my soul. So aligned. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you for your time and your energy and your commitment. It is absolutely gorgeous. We'll hop off to the fireside chat, but let's close this off. And if the audience has any questions, they can reach back out to you directly, post them in the comment section, and we can always circle back for another podcast. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Looking
Absolutely.
forward to hearing from everybody.
Absolutely.